Sorry about that delay. I want to welcome everybody today to this forum. I think most of you are familiar with Dr. Sherry Phelan. So I am just going to hand
all of you. I'm really glad that you're able to join me this morning, get to meet me, ask me hard questions, and all that kind of stuff. But first, my name is Sherry Phelan, and I've been honored to work here at OTC for the past 6 years, where I've been Director of Online Instructional Design and Faculty Development at OTC Online. So what I want to do first this morning is just kind of go through my journey with you to this point, kind of tell you what I see for OTC Online and the Idea Lab for the future, and then you can ask me some hard questions. Okay. So when I went to school, I had every intention of being a world famous scientist. So I went to school to get my biology degree, or my bachelor's degree in biology. But my first job right out of college was with a large pest management firm in Kansas City, where I was service manager and director of training and development. And in this role, I was responsible for training pest control technicians to get them ready for their certifications. So way back then, I started getting into training and development as well as leadership. So I worked there for a few years, and then I decided that I've had enough of that. So I went to, I got a job with USDA. So while I was there, I decided, well, you know, this is okay, kind of cubicle work. It was a supervisory role, but it just wasn't real fulfilling. So I was like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and get my master's degree in business administration. Because I thought, well, maybe eventually I go into business for myself and all that. But this was at the point which I had a little curve in the road as far as my career, and I began teaching. So I was offered a opportunity to teach business and leadership courses online. And so I was like doing that for a little while, and that bug bit me. I was like, oh my gosh, I love teaching. I loved working with students. I love the whole idea of education. And I got really excited about it. And I was like, oh, you know what? I think I'm just going to teach science. Because I love science and I love teaching, so why not do both? So I went back to school again, got a master's degree in education, teaching, curriculum, and instruction. Okay. So I would like to say that that first year of teaching middle school science was rainbows and unicorns, but it was not. I got hired by a large urban school district in Kansas City. And I literally had probably nearly 200 students that first year. And it was probably, out of all the positions I've ever had, the most difficult situation that I've ever been in. And let me kind of explain. That first year, I had 3 students who were pregnant in my classroom. They were 12 to 13-year-olds. Okay. I had students who would come in with bruises on their face, and they would tell me stories about parents or boyfriends or girlfriends or relatives beating up on them. I would hear stories about students, their parents going to jail, and they had nobody there at night for them, and nobody when they got up in the morning. They would come to school hungry. Okay. I had an autistic child in my classroom who, when he wasn't staring straight ahead the entire class period, he would be drawing dragons. Okay, how do I reach that student? I didn't know. Okay, I had a student who would almost on a weekly basis say, I'd walk by, hand back papers, and he would go, Miss Phelan, I'm going to kill you. Okay, so I reported this student, but surprisingly, by the end of the school year, he was still in my class. So I don't know what the deal was with that. But, and then I had a student, and I can say his name. His name was Omri. He would sit right back where Lance is sitting. And so I'd walk back to the classroom and I'd say, hey, Omri, how are you doing today? Well, I can speak about him because a couple of years after I left that school, he died in a gang-related shooting. But he would sit back there and he'd be just like, and he was smart, he was bright, he was wonderful. Given his background, he was a wonderful science student. But he would sit back there and he would just like, hey, Miss Phelan, what do you think about smoking pot? But these students were products of their environment. Okay, but as a teacher, as an instructor in the classroom, it was up to me. I was accountable for teaching them science, having them learn, having them to be successful in the classroom, and yet I had not a clue. So first year teachers typically have a mentor. So my mentor was the veteran teacher in the classroom next door. So I went over to her and I said, Mrs. Ball, and I'm just literally I'm down in the dumps because I haven't a clue how to help these students. And I went to her and I said, how do I help? How do I teach these students? How do I help them be successful? How do I help them get to high school? And she puts her hands on her hips like this and she goes, you just got to suck it up and teach. She goes, do you have textbooks in the classroom? And I said, well, yes. She goes, well, you have those students read through the text, do popcorn reading, that'll get them all excited. I'm like, okay. If you know what popcorn reading is, it's just students different students around the classroom just read little parts of the text. Anyway. Do popcorn reading, have them do questions at the end of the book or at the end of the chapter, and then call it a day. And I was like, what? I teach science. Where's the experiments? Where are those active learning things I learned about in teacher education classes? No, she said, that's the best way to get to these students. You're not going to be able to handle them otherwise. And it was at that point that I knew that I wasn't going to have encouragement. I wasn't going to have support. And when I asked about faculty development and training activities, I got nothing. In fact, the teachers' meetings, where it's usually a great opportunity for the faculty to get together and discuss curriculum and students and all those great things that faculty do when they get together, it was the principal saying, if you don't get a better handle on your classes, I'm not going to hire you next year. That was my experience that first year of teaching. And I learned so much about faculty development and the need for dedicated support and training, encouragement, and all of that. So I knew about 3 or 4 months in that there was no way that I was going to sign another contract with that school. So at the end of the school year, I picked up all my stuff, what little of it that there was, because the students had pretty much cleaned me out of most of my stuff in my desk. So I went on, and within a couple of weeks, I got a teaching offer of employment from a small rural school down here south of Springfield, Spokane. And I can tell you that it was absolutely the other end of the spectrum. When I walked in just to tour the school, students were engaged, the teachers were engaged, you could see learning going on, you could see the learning objectives up on the board, and you could see science happening in the classroom. You could see experiments going on. And I was like, that's where I want to be. So I got in there, and sure enough, it was a wonderful experience. It felt very supported. There were professional development opportunities. Students were learning. There was interdisciplinary opportunities. I would partner up with a math teacher, and we would switch classrooms. And I'd go in there and I'd talk about how important math was to science, and he would go in and talk about how math can be integrated, all that kind of stuff. And in music classrooms, so there was even an opportunity for science and music to connect as well. I would go in and talk about how sound waves, the whole science behind that, okay, and voice, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, that's beside the point. The real focus here is that this school, this little bitty school, this little rural school with a lot of poverty level students, had great experiences going on. And it was because the faculty were prepared, they were supported, they were encouraged, and they had opportunities to learn and grow. So I took a lot from both of those experiences, but after about 3 or 4 years in the middle school classroom, I was like, I don't know if anybody's taught middle school kids, but they're a different breed. So I kind of had enough of that. And I was like, well, I'd like to go in and go to the college level. So I had an opportunity to go to work for a small career college here in Springfield. They hired me as dean. And I was dean of the campus operations, but also for about a year. And I was there for about 3 years. And for about a year of that, I was also dean of online, their online division as well. Now, a dean at a career college is not kind of like our deans here. They are dean of everything. Okay, so they are dean. So I was dean of allied health, business, whatever else they have, personal training, computer networking, all of those things. I was also responsible for campus operations, for the budget, for all of the leadership of faculty and department chairs, and curriculum development, accreditation. It was just a whole package of things. Great opportunity, great resource to help me learn and grow as a leader, to help prepare me for a role like this. But when I got there is when I first heard the word retention. Now, in a school where the campus population is about 200, if you lose 5 students, 10 students, or even more than that, all of a sudden, retention rates tank. And so who's responsible for that? Well, the dean is. And so there was a lot of accountability, a lot of pressure on the dean to figure out ways to keep what they said, keep butts in seats. And so I decided, well, I'm going to start working with faculty, and then I'm going to look at students. When I got there, there was no faculty onboarding, there was no training, there was no development, there was nothing. They literally took professionals that they've hired, gave them a textbook, and put them in the classroom and said, here you go, here's your schedule, here's a syllabus, go ahead and teach. Okay. Well, when you take untrained, unprepared faculty and put them in the classroom, you're not setting yourself up for a lot of success, student success. So one of the things I did to help with that is to create an onboarding process. We had an orientation, created an online training course, as well as a seated training course for these students, or for these faculty members, to help prepare them for their role in the classroom. And then we start having regular professional development sessions, something these professionals never had. Okay? We kind of went through this process for a couple of years, and they were like, wow, we feel more like teachers now than we ever did. I was like, well, that's the point. All right? We need to be able to reach our students. We need to be able to teach our students. We need to do all of that. So all of this, I taught them how to better manage their curriculum, how to map objectives to the learning activities and student learning outcomes and all those kinds of things. We started seeing some improvements. But the missing piece of this whole retention thing was that we weren't still getting a lot of student retention. Wasn't really there where it should be. Okay, so I thought, all right, well, then there's another missing piece to this. And it turns out that these students didn't have any kind of advising. This small school had a small staff. They had one financial aid person, one student advising person, if you want to call it that, but that's all they had. So what I did is I started assigning groups of students to faculty members. And so we started to create what we kind of see here at OTC as far as faculty advising. All right. So then these students had a connection with faculty members. They had a connection to the dean because I was their student advisor for a long time until I did that. So I kind of delegated that to the faculty. And then they had connections with each other because we started to do more of the in-school activities and events to kind of get them engaged with the school as well, because they needed to become a part of the school culture. Okay, I can't say that we made a huge change in retention for the little time that I was there, but we could see changes in the faculty, and we could see some of the changes in the student. We started to see more engagement, more motivation among all of these people. So from there, OTC Online had a position. They advertised for online instructional design faculty development. I was like, you know what? I think I can do that. So I applied, and so here I am. So I want to speak a little bit about some of the things that I've done here. What we've done when we first came on board, there were our faculty development, at least in the online world, was not where it could be. So we started to do some different things for faculty development that went beyond just the informative 1-hour sessions. It was mostly to try to get groups of faculty together as professional learning communities, a way to get faculty together to talk. So you may have heard of pizza chats and waffle Fridays and some of these other groups that we got together. We did a summer boot camp one summer where we got faculty together, and we spent a week or so talking about teaching and learning and best practices. We've done just a variety of different things to try to get faculty engaged in their development, because we know that if faculty can be excellent teachers in the classroom, students are going to be engaged and they're going to be interested in learning. If we can develop a passion for teaching and learning, we're going to see those returns in the classroom. So one of the things, and so I'm kind of a project-based person, so I've done some projects as well. So we sat down back in 2013 and we started talking about how we might be able to create a faculty center thing. We found that at OTC Online, we had people coming in, all kinds of faculty. We had online faculty, we had seated faculty, we had hybrid faculty, all coming in. They were looking for support, but while we were there, we were able to talk to them about other things about their course. So we kind of said, okay, we do some of that. We do some faculty development. We do some of these other things that you might expect to see at a faculty center. So we started to kind of grow that idea from within. And then last year, we kind of tagged it as the Idea Lab. Now, I'm not saying that's a faculty center, but I am saying it's a place to come where you can get expert support, help, encouragement, and resources that you need to help you grow as a faculty practitioner. Okay. We also support students as well, because they're such a huge piece of what we do. That's why we're here. So we have an instructional support piece that we're at the LMS, because our LMS, there's a course site in every single seated online hybrid course. So we've got a support piece for that as well. What else? As far as a vision for the future, it's really aligned to the strategic plan and the student success initiatives. So we want to really focus on the faculty development piece, growing that, helping faculty, supporting them in their practice. We've got the instructional design piece where we're going to help build quality into these courses. We've got a very robust process in which we work at the program level to help programs and their faculty work through course mapping kind of get a feel for where the objectives and the instructional activities and the outcomes all come into alignment. If we can do that, we can really improve the quality of the instruction that goes on here. What else? We've got our instructional support piece. We've got a data support piece. Historically, we've not been very data driven in our department, so we've got a wonderful opportunity to build in and use data to help inform our processes. So that's, for my vision, it is to move this forward, integrating all of these processes, enhancing them. There's probably an important part of all of this by expanding instructional support. Most of our students aren't here from 8 to 5. They're either working or they're at school, but in the online world, they're usually doing things late at night, or they're on the weekends. And so it's looking for ways to support them where they need it, be there where the students are. And some of that might be an institutional piece as well, but if we can expand what we do as far as instructional support to help students overcome barriers in their online learning, I think that's going to be huge. So that is me in a nutshell. I probably missed some things, but I welcome your questions and comments about OTC Online, how we can make improvements in what we do, how we can better support faculty, and those kinds of things.
I did have one question from one of our librarians, but she couldn't be here today. What responsibilities or job duties do you think may take time to learn, and how to go about doing so?
Okay. What job responsibilities, like? That's a good question. Probably, it's probably not more of a learning process as much as it's not been done in the past a whole lot, but it is being more open and transparent. That's part. I think that's an important part of the dean's role, is to be open and transparent. So much of the history of OTC Online has kind of shown us as an isolated group of people who kind of do their own thing. Well, we don't do that. We haven't done that in a long time. And it's opening up those lines of communications, building relationships, and building trust with people outside of our department who may not know us that well, who may need to, have more of an understanding of what we are and what we do. So I think that's a real important piece that the dean will have to do that's not really been done in the past.
You mentioned data. Can you give me a specific example of how you think you might use data?
Sure. Right now, we just use data to inform our processes. So in other words, we look at maybe some of the, especially with the instructional design piece, we look at assessments and how assessments are, especially when we, and I guess I should refocus this. When we work with programs on the instructional design side, okay, we build in the data piece so that they can see what's been done in the past as far as their assessments, how their faculty have been doing and all of that, how they can better build more effective learning activities in the classroom. As far as internally what we use it for, I use it mostly just for, we use it for faculty development, getting some ideas for that, for instructional design. They look at some of the things that go on in the courses and all that. That's basically what we're using it for at this point. But there's a huge opportunity for the data piece to help inform departments and about their progress and things like that in that work. So,
We have a question from online. Gail asks, what do you feel are the top 2 or 3 accomplishments that you have made during your time here at OTC?
okay, sure. It's growing that idea of service and support and getting it to the point where we actually have a space and probably a better opportunity to serve faculty and students. And I'm talking about the Idea Lab. And that wasn't just my idea, although I kind of conceptualized it and put it into a written format. That's kind of just been kind of a team effort. Another thing is I've worked with the Center for Workforce Development to help convert some of their online training or some of their seated trainings to the online format. Most recently was the medical assisting program. And then we have, like I said, expanded faculty development from what it once was to something a little bit more robust. But I still feel that there are opportunities to come up with some more innovative approaches for that. But those are probably the three things.
There's another question. Doug asks, can or should we take lessons from online training approaches as opposed to online learning, such as micro-learning and project-based learning, etc.?
For classrooms, hi Doug. Or hi Doug.
I'm not sure if he means specifically for classrooms, but just for online.
Just for online. Oh, so we're doing some project-based stuff for online, which is kind of cool idea. So one of the things that I value as an educator is the scholarship of teaching and learning. And so there's probably a opportunity for doing some of those project-based scholarship of teaching and learning things, doing a little research in your classrooms and things like that. What I'd like to see maybe for the future is to be able to fund that with maybe some small grants or I don't know, but it depends on where that could go. But to fund maybe small stipends or grants to do some classroom research and then to share those best practices with other online instructors, which I think is huge. When a faculty member can do some research in their own classrooms and then share those best practices with others, but that's one of the best forms of faculty development there is. And we kind of did a project like that where we looked at a little project where we had full-time instructors doing just having a full-time load and seeing how that worked. It was kind of an experiment, kind of a little bit of research to see how that worked. So we've done those things, but I think that's a good idea, project-based learning. Question? Oh, okay.
You've talked about the Faculty Center for Teaching and Learning, and you briefly touched on an instructional support piece for students. How do you see online student success growing and fitting in with your Faculty Center piece?
Online students, the student success piece fits in within the classroom. So it's whatever those things are, those components are that fit into to the classroom. Because my belief is students they come into our classes to do the work and then they're gone. They've got other obligations, they've got other things to do. We need to meet them where they are. And if they're coming to class, those student success things need to be happening within the classroom. Okay, so I know we've got built into the syllabus the resources like DSS and all those kinds of links and things like that. I'm not sure what it looks like. Maybe it's an embedded student success navigator role or something like that within the online classroom where students know, well, this is my advocate in the classroom. This is this is a person I can go to who can maybe help direct me, help coach me, whatever the case may be. I don't know if that's even a reality. I don't know if that's a scalable thing even with the guide number of online courses. But I think if we can build student success opportunities in the classroom and help our faculty also be engaging in the classroom, because faculty are huge. They are the lifeblood of teaching and learning. They are there in the classrooms. They're the front row, and they're with our students all the time. If we can help faculty engage with students, I think we're going to see an uptick in student success as well. So it's built into the classes. That's what I think. Yes.
how do you plan to, for lack of a better term, recruit that mid-career faculty member who may be a little stale and not realize they need some help? How do you plan to draw them in to the center?
Go out and meet them. No, I mean, I guess that could be one way. What I found is you have to create learning opportunities for faculty that are meaningful and relevant. And it's finding those things that would appeal to the mid-career faculty member. That's not always going to get them in the door, and that's not always going to recruit them. Maybe it is having opportunities for the department to get together, the program to get together and have those conversations, because that's where that development takes place. John's been working with our instructional design team on a course or two, and they get together and they've been having discussions, and they're at all levels in their instructional careers. And it's been a great learning experience for them to work through those, from the course mapping to their instructional content development and talking about assessments and things like that. And then applying those things in their classrooms. It's been huge, a huge learning experience. I don't know, I'm beginning to think that just might be the way of the future for some of our faculty development, is to get groups together, have them learn together, apply together, and learn from that. So, and then food. Food always seems to get people in.
Yeah, how do you reach adjuncts, particularly those who are hundreds of miles away?
Yeah, that's always a thing. What is communication? So one of the things is communicating with them. We've tried newsletters and things like that in the past. My thought is, and I haven't got it done yet, and it's been on my mind for a couple of years, is to create a virtual Idea Lab, virtual center, some kind of place where they can come to for 24/7. There could be short courses in there. There could be some training opportunities in there. They can ask questions. It could be things like blogs. I mean, it's just a big little, whatever. It's just a website. It's a virtual place for them to come and get some of the resources they need. And if it's at the middle of the night after they've been grading papers and they were thinking, I just need a little help with this, there might be an instructional video or tutorial or something like that for them. That could be helpful. And and maybe one of our local adjuncts who just can't come into a session, because a lot of our sessions happen during the regular office hours. So it's just a good way for them to have some after hours things. So that is one of my goals, is to get that done, whether I'm dean or not. I look forward to doing that. So.
Yeah. What's your philosophy on either creating new or expanding current programs that are based on the evolving trends and needs in industry and society?
Right. First of all, there's two parts to this. First of all, we have to figure out how to improve retention online courses. I think that's going to be huge, because our online courses are continuing to grow, but yet retention continues to be a problem. So what we need to do is fix that piece. How are we going to build quality instruction? How are we going to get faculty prepared and engaged and excited about teaching? And then once we start to see some returns on that, I think there's room for growth in additional new programs and courses. But I want to see that we've got a good grasp on helping students be successful, helping remove the barriers in the classroom for them. So I think it's just that, do that first, and then look at how can we grow. Because I think we need to have, I don't want us as a college to become stale. We've got some great programs, but what are some other programs that we can do based on the needs of the community and the needs of the market, and how can we grow those? And I think that's an important piece of growth going forward.
Can I ask another question? Should we be doing more team teaching online, like in MOOCs?
Yeah, I think MOOCs are good. I like the team teaching approach, like maybe not so much a MOOC as much as why don't we have team teachers? Why don't we have a couple of and I think some of that already goes on here at OTC, that having a couple of teachers team teach in the classroom would be awesome. We do that at the secondary level a lot. So yeah, I think that's a good idea. I'm not sure how we would kick it off, but I think it's worth looking at. Yeah.
We talked a little bit, or a couple of times about retention in online classes. I think the other piece that when we look at the data doesn't, or stands out as not being as successful as their seated classes is the success part. So you talked about retention, but can you talk a little bit about student outcomes in online classes and your vision or thoughts about how to address our low success rates?
Right. I'm kind of a firm believer, and this is just me, just personal opinion, is that it's what's happening inside the classroom. So I think it's creating those authentic, active learning activities in the classroom that align the topic with real world career experiences. So it's that piece where you can help students have meaning and relevance in what they're learning. So quality. So it kind of harkens back to quality. So what are those quality experiences? That's why we've been working with programs to take a look at what's in their courses, what are those objectives that they need to meet, how do we help them meet those objectives, and what are those student learning outcomes going to look like. And it's developing. We allow the faculty come up with their own learning activities. We just provide the course or the course mapping and all that kind of stuff to kind of help them focus on those areas. But it's I think for me that's the huge piece, is creating a quality experience that engages students and also meets those learning outcomes that we need to ensure quality courses.
Just a couple things. I think one, when we talk about success retention, online has a disadvantage in that those last 2 weeks before we start the semester, we're mandated to continue to provide access for students and seats for students. As those last 1,500 to 2,000 come in, many of them can't find a seat schedule that fits their needs. And so they want financial aid, and they want to be a full-time student, and they end up taking a couple of online courses because they want to get to 12+ hours. And then those students, Stephanie, she taught a W11, a W5, and a W1. And if you want to look at success retention, a W11 is significantly lower because that's where those my students went. So sometimes we set ourselves up.
Yes.
Because of other pressures. So I think that's a challenge.
Absolutely.
To figure out how to still meet those students, keep rigor, etc. So I think that's whoever is successful can do. That's something I'm interested in.
Right.
And then secondly, I guess, is there a difference in your mind between training and teaching?
Training and teaching. Yes. Teaching is to training I think is to that's a good question. I'm stumbling over that now because I'm thinking, yeah, there is a difference. Teaching is so relationship based in my mind. It is that interaction, that thing that happens between teacher and students and their peers. And it's that community thing that happens in the classroom that's inspired by the teacher. So that in that sense, it's a relationship-based thing, whereas training, it accomplishes the goal of getting somebody some knowledge, or a certification or something like that. So teaching is more of a heart thing and a mind thing, but a heart thing, whereas training is really just, we need to get this done and, and all that. That's kind of my take on the difference between the two. But you make a good point about the students, those late start students, those students who come in late, how we can best, we do tend to see a lot more drops and things like that with those
Yeah,
students.
I just think it's, sometimes we say, well, we need more online capacity, it's just flat out. We do make adjustments to handle every single student.
Right.
So it's not capacity that we need, it is making sure that those last few students that do come in, or those last 2 weeks, somehow we figure out a way to continue to have them be successful and retained.
Right.
And that's a big, big job.
That is.
That's everybody, that's not just
Right.
online.
Right.
Or IT lab, or
Right.
whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
That's everybody.
It is a huge concern.
I have a couple of questions and comment. I guess my first comment is, are you willing to turn students away? In other words, we have a lot of students that aren't, they don't have internet access. They don't know how, they don't even know. I get emails like, I've never taken an online class before. Do you think I should? And it's like, I usually go, no.
Well, right.
And so are you willing, I know that Stephanie kind of tested that too with the online. If they're not capable, are we willing to say, no, you can't?
Well, I think you should. I think you should be honest and upfront with these students. If they say, I don't know how to do it, I'm not prepared to do it, I don't even know if I want to do it, I don't have the technology at home, I think that you should be able to say, you may not be right for this class. Here's another section, an online or a seated section or hybrid section that might be a better fit for you.
Okay.
Now,
My other, well, I've got 2 other questions. So you're an insider. You're, the other 2 candidates are from the outside. I think being from the inside can be both advantageous and not advantageous.
absolutely.
So you said you've been around for 6 years. I mean, you've tried the Friday waffles, the summer sessions and so forth, and the percentages are pretty low. So what new can you bring to the table?
I think one of the things that we've not tried much here that I've not really seen is, again, I think it's that getting the professional, that learning community together. We see that in other institutions and even at the lower levels, like secondary levels, but it's a real effective way to help faculty learn and grow together. Some of our best sessions, some of our well-attended ones, are ones in which we just invite people in and we just have conversations. And I'm not saying that that's anything new or innovative. That's something that we've not really expanded on much here, and I think there's room for that. We also have to meet faculty where they are. I mean, we can sit here and talk like this all day long, but if we don't have opportunities for them to learn and grow outside of the normal business hours, then we're missing a lot of people as far as growth and development. So.
And my final question is one I ask each candidate is, can you define critical thinking and how do you assess it?
Right. Critical thinking is to me, the ability to substantiate a position. So in other words, it's to research and defend a position and think through an issue or problem critically. So you're doing research, you're developing a new thought process towards coming up with a solution. And one of the best ways that I've found to assess that is not necessarily assessing whether it's a right or wrong answer, but assessing whether or not that we can see that there's been a thought process behind it. So has there been research? Has there been an opportunity for them to look at other opinions and perspectives and make a judgment call on that? So and evaluate a problem and try to come up with a solution. So it's a subjective evaluation, of course, but I don't necessarily look at right or wrong, but I like to look to see that the process is leading up to a position or a judgment call or a problem solved has merit. That's what I look for.
So what do you do for fun or class?
Oh, really?
Yeah, that would be.
Oh, do I look that serious? No. I am a avid Marvel nerd, so I like all the Marvel movies, but I am an outdoors person, so I just go out and I'm a nature photographer, go out and have fun doing that kind of stuff. I run, I walk. I mean, I like comedies. Yeah. Okay. I'm a boring person, I guess. Yep.
Kind of building on what was discussed back here just a couple minutes ago, in terms of students who are not prepared to succeed in online courses. I'll admit some ignorance here, so I'm asking truly, what is done to help bring those students into a position where they can succeed and access learning that way? If it's not enough, what would you suggest we do to provide opportunities to students to be equipped to learn in that manner?
Right, I think it's in the onboarding process, I think it's very, very important to identify students, their preparedness. So when they're walking in the door and they're wanting to register for classes and things like that, I think there needs to be a point in which they sit down and have those conversations about whether or not they'd be prepared to take an online class. From there needs to be some kind of training or some kind of opportunity for them to learn more about the LMS and how to be successful as an online student. And I think that's important. I think we've got like OTC 101 and we've got things like that, but if we could build in an online component or some kind of a little training thing to help prepare them better for online learning, I think that's going to be an important thing. And we've kind of had something like that. We've had an online orientation course that students could access if they wanted to before the semester started. A couple of weeks before the semester started, they can run through that. It's very, very simple. You learn to upload documents and, participate in the discussion forum and things like that, which I think is a helpful tool for them as well. So, but it's an institutional thing as well. I think, we could have a piece of that, but I think it's also the institution needs to look at ways to help those students right at the outset when they're walking in the door and they're thinking about taking an online course, but do they have the tools and the skills necessary to be able to do so? And if not, maybe we make that suggestion to them that they start off in a seated or hybrid course first, kind of get in, be a student for a little while, and then kind of transition to that. And I can see where you could a student would transition from seated to a hybrid, and then to a fully online if they wanted to. And there's room for growth for the hybrid programs. My goodness, I think that's an awesome situation when students can be learning online, but also have a component where there's that face-to-face piece, because that's huge for a lot of students as well. So I think there's a real opportunity for growth of hybrid programs as well, and that's part of that transition for students who might want to go fully online in the future. But I would never recommend that a student who's not prepared, who doesn't have the skills necessary to take an online class, I would recommend that they try CB classes first.
Who's doing that triage right now? Is that an advisor's role? You talk about having conversation with the students to kind of assess, it sounds to me.
That, I'm hoping that's going on I'm hoping that's going on when you're in the whole registration process. I'm not sure how that happens at the entry point.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
How that works.
Right. Just a comment on that. I was one of the instructors that did the fully online pilot, and part of what we developed was an online readiness quiz that we deployed in each of our classes. And so a student would take the quiz. There would be certain flags that we would look for. You know, do you have internet at home? Do you have a computer? And things like this. And we as instructors would be invasively advising these students. There were several students where we were, you don't need to be in this online class right now. And so that is not happening when they first walk in. And of course with W11, it was students that had walked in, you know, the day before classes started. So we as instructors were handling that.
Which is a labor-intensive process.
Yeah.
That intrusive advising piece that those teachers were doing was incredibly labor-intensive and overwhelming at times. But that's when I say we build student success into online classes. I'm not saying it looks like that at all, but I think there's a component there that we could maybe help students be successful, and I'm not sure what that looks like yet. But yeah, but I really appreciate the work that those 3 faculty members did. That was a huge undertaking, and they worked so hard, and they did a great job. And there were some failure points, but there were some successes as well. We've got a lot of best practices that came from that. And yeah, so I really appreciate their work on that.
Would you support a student having to, required to having to do something like the orientation course or something prior to being registered for the first online class?
Required.
Do you think it's a good idea? That's what I'm asking.
Yes.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes. And, you know, in fact, a lot of institutions do have that as a requirement. And if it is a requirement, since most courses, most faculty, almost all faculty require them to go to the LMS to use it. If that's not already, and I've not really looked into that course a lot, but if there's an opportunity for them to learn how to use the LMS as part of that, that'd be awesome too, because that can be a real barrier to student success in any class if they're not able to, or they don't know how to access.
I understand. I had a student last semester who was in CIS 101, had no computer, no internet.
Right.
That was his online class. He did his entire online class, and he worked 8 to 5. In our lab, after 5, the entire class. He passed.
Which is awesome. Which is awesome, but right.
It could have been so much simpler.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we probably have time for one more question.
You talked a lot about and through the stories you told, I think we've got a good picture of your educational philosophy and how you kind of come to that in the classroom. Can you talk on the flip side about your leadership philosophy, right? You'd be stepping into a position to provide lots of folks. What's your philosophy of leadership style, conflict resolution, that sort of thing?
Yeah. I'm a real collaborative, that's my leadership style. I like to involve my staff members, my team, in some of the decision making, and we set goals and vision and stuff like that. I'm an excellent team player, but I believe that communication is huge. I think there needs to be better communication from the online realm as far as you know, what's going on, what we're doing, what our goals are, how we can better work with and collaborate with and partner with, like the TLC and DSS and testing services and all those areas to better help support our students. So I think it's important for this dean, whomever it is, to not only be able to be a good communicator, but, and that speaks to my management style as well, but to also collaborate, build partnerships and build trust and with a lot of with our people, and so that's big with me. So I guess if I had to tag it with an official tag, it'd be like a democratic leadership style. Yeah, I don't see myself as above my people. We're all one team. We're all focused on one goal, or many goals, but one thing, which is student success. And so we're gonna work towards that. That's our vision.
All right, well, let's thank Sherry for coming in. And be sure to, the email that Tracy sent out had the link to go out and be able to do the survey. So if you have any comments there, please be sure to take care of that. Thank you all.